My name is Lucia, and I'm 32 years old. 3 months ago, I bought my first apartment with my own money. It was everything I'd worked for. 7 years of saving late nights, doing freelance work, saying no to vacations, and finally holding those keys in my hand. I cried that day. I never imagined my own father would demand I hand over the keys to my stepsister, claiming she deserved it more than I did. But when he started threatening to disinherit me, I handed him documents that changed everything. Before I tell you what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching this from. Drop your city in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss how this story ends. Trust me, you'll want to hear what those documents revealed. I work as a marketing manager at a tech startup in Seattle. It's the kind of job I'd dreamed about since college. Good salary, creative projects, and a team I actually enjoyed working with. But it hadn't always been easy. I'd worked my way up from an entry-level position 7 years ago, often staying late to prove myself, taking on extra projects nobody else wanted, and slowly, steadily climbing the ladder. Every paycheck, I'd transfer money into my savings account, $200 here, $500 there. On good months, maybe $1,000. I also took on freelance projects on weekends, designing social media campaigns for small businesses. It wasn't glamorous, but it added up. The down payment alone was $80,000. $80,000 that came entirely from my own sweat and sacrifice. No help from family, no inheritance. Just me, my laptop, and an Excel spreadsheet tracking every penny. When I finally had enough, I started apartment hunting. Seattle's real estate market is brutal, but I knew what I wanted. Something with natural light, a view, and a neighborhood where I felt safe walking at night. I found it on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. 15th floor of a modern building downtown. 2 bedrooms, 1,000 square feet, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. The moment I walked in, I knew. The kitchen had granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. The hardwood floors were a warm honey color that caught the afternoon sun. There was even a small balcony just big enough for a chair and a coffee table. I could already picture myself out there on weekend mornings drinking coffee and watching the ferries cross the water. The realtor could see it in my face. She smiled and said, "This is the one, isn't it?" I nodded, afraid if I spoke I'd start crying right there. We put in an offer that same day. The negotiation process took 2 weeks, and every day felt like an eternity. But finally, on a Thursday morning, my phone rang. "Congratulations, Miss Thompson. The seller accepted your offer." I sat down on the floor of my old studio apartment and sobbed. Happy tears, relief tears. I'm finally making it tears. Moving day was exhausting but exhilarating. I didn't hire professional movers because I was trying to save money. Friends helped me carry boxes up that elevator, making jokes about how I'd better invite them over for dinner parties now that I had a real dining room. I painted the walls myself, choosing a soft gray for the living room and a pale blue for the bedroom. Every piece of furniture was carefully selected. The couch came from a local furniture store, deep green velvet that felt luxurious. The dining table was reclaimed wood from a warehouse sale. Bookshelves I built myself from a kit slightly crooked but mine. The most important thing I hung was a painting my mother had made when I was a child. It showed our old backyard full of wildflowers and sunshine. She'd painted it the summer before she got sick. I put it in the living room right above the couch where I could see it every day. Next to it, I arranged a small gallery wall of family photos from when Mom was still alive. Me as a toddler in her arms. The 3 of us at the beach. My parents dancing in our kitchen. These were the memories I wanted in my new home. I also filled the place with plants. Pothos hanging in the kitchen, a fiddle leaf fig by the window, succulents lined up on the bathroom counter. Taking care of them became part of my routine, a way to make the space feel alive and loved. This wasn't just an apartment. It was the first place that was entirely mine, where every decision reflected who I was and what I valued. Once everything was settled, I called my father to share the news. I was excited, maybe naively hoping he'd be proud. The phone rang 4 times before he picked up. "Hello." His voice was flat, distracted. "Dad, it's me. I wanted to tell you something. I bought an apartment." There was a pause. "That's nice, Lucia." Nice. Just nice. Not congratulations, not I'm so proud of you, just nice. I pushed down the disappointment. "I was hoping you and Patricia could come see it sometime. Maybe this weekend?" Another pause. "We'll see. Amber's been busy with wedding planning. We're helping her look at venues." Of course. Amber. My stepsister, who'd been the center of attention since my father married her mother 14 years ago. "Oh, that's exciting," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "But maybe you could stop by for an hour. It's not far from your place." He sighed. "Lucia, we'll try. I'll let you know." The conversation ended shortly after, leaving me staring at my phone, feeling hollow. I'd expected this, hadn't I? This was how things had been for years. But it still hurt. Instead of dwelling on it, I called my best friend from work, Hannah. She screamed with excitement and promised to come over that weekend with champagne. At least someone cared. I decided to throw a small housewarming party. Nothing fancy, just close friends and coworkers. I sent an invitation to my father, Patricia, and Amber. It felt like the right thing to do, even though part of me already knew they wouldn't come. Sure enough, 2 days before the party, my father called. "Lucia, we can't make it to your party. Amber needs help picking her wedding dress that day." I'd been chopping vegetables for dinner when he called. I set down the knife carefully. "Can't she reschedule? This is important to me." He sounded irritated. "Her appointment has been booked for weeks. This is important too, you know. It's her wedding." Right. Her wedding. The event that had dominated every family conversation for the past 6 months. The party happened without them. 10 people showed up bringing wine and houseplants and laughter. We ordered pizza, played music too loud, and toasted to new beginnings. But I couldn't shake the feeling of absence, the empty space where family should have been. My friend Hannah noticed me staring at my phone. "They're not coming, are they?" I shook my head. She hugged me. "Their loss. This place is amazing, and so are you." I wanted to believe her. I really did. Later that night, after everyone left and I was alone with the mess of paper plates and empty bottles, I sat on my balcony. The city lights stretched out below me, thousands of people living their own lives, facing their own struggles. I thought about my mother. She died when I was 15 from cancer that came on fast and brutal. I remembered those last months, how she'd held my hand and told me to be strong. "You're going to do great things, Lucia. Don't let anyone make you feel small." 2 years after she died, my father married Patricia. Patricia had a daughter, Amber, who was 9 at the time. Suddenly, our quiet house of 2 became a house of 4, and I was expected to welcome this new family with open arms. But it never felt like family. Amber got the bigger bedroom. Patricia redecorated the entire house, erasing every trace of my mother. The photos came down, the furniture was replaced. Even Mom's garden in the backyard was torn up and turned into a patio. When I started high school, I attended the public school in our district. Amber went to Lakeside Academy, a prestigious private school that cost $40,000 a year. When I asked why my father said Amber needed a structured environment, I got student loans for college. Amber's tuition at the University of Washington was paid in full. When Amber turned 16, she got a BMW. I took the bus until I could afford my own used Honda at 19. The pattern was clear. Amber was the priority. I was the one expected to understand, to be independent, to not need anything. And I'd internalized that message so deeply that I stopped asking for help altogether. I became self-sufficient because I had no other choice. But sitting there on my balcony, I realized something. I'd bought this apartment despite everything. Despite the lack of support, despite feeling like I didn't matter, I'd done it. And that had to mean something. A week after I moved in, my life settled into a comfortable rhythm. I'd wake up early, do yoga by the big windows while the sun rose over the water. Then I'd make coffee in my beautiful kitchen, pour it into my favorite mug, and sit on the balcony watching the city wake up. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Then my phone rang. It was my father. His voice was serious, almost formal. "Lucia, we need to talk. Can you come over for dinner tomorrow?" Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "We just need to discuss something. Come at 7. He hung up before I could ask more questions. I stared at the phone, anxiety creeping up my spine. Whatever this was, it wasn't good. I drove to my father's house the next evening, my hands tight on the steering wheel. The drive took 30 minutes out of the city and into the suburbs where he and Patricia lived. Their house was large, 4 bedrooms with a manicured lawn and a 2-car garage. It had been my mother's house once, the place where I grew up. But Patricia had transformed it so completely that I barely recognized it anymore. The blue shutters my mother loved were now gray. The rose bushes were gone, replaced with decorative grasses. Even the front door was different. I parked in the driveway and sat there for a moment, gathering courage. Through the front window, I could see movement inside. Patricia setting the table, my father standing in the kitchen. I took a deep breath and got out of the car. My father opened the door before I could knock. "Lucia, come in." His expression was unreadable. I stepped inside, the smell of roasted chicken filling the air. Patricia appeared from the kitchen wearing an apron and a tight smile. "Hello, Lucia. Dinner's almost ready." Amber was already sitting at the dining table with her boyfriend Dylan. They looked up when I entered. Amber's expression was cold. Dylan gave me an awkward wave. The dining room felt too formal. The table was set with the good china cloth napkins, wine glasses. This wasn't a casual family dinner. This was something else. I sat down across from Amber, folding my hands in my lap. Nobody spoke. Patricia brought out the food. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. She served everyone in silence. My father poured wine. Still nobody said anything. The tension was suffocating. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "So, Amber, how's the wedding planning going?" I tried to sound friendly. She barely looked at me. "Fine." That was it. Just fine. Dylan shifted uncomfortably beside her. He was a resident at a hospital downtown, nice enough from the few times I'd met him. He seemed out of his depth in this family dynamic. "When's the big day?" I asked, trying again. 6 months from now," Patricia answered for her. "We're looking at venues this weekend." Right. The venues that were more important than my housewarming party. Dinner dragged on. We ate in near silence, the only sounds the clinking of silverware against plates. My father kept glancing at Patricia like they were communicating telepathically. Amber picked at her food, her face set in a permanent scowl. I forced myself to eat even though my stomach was in knots. Something was coming. I could feel it. After we finished eating, my father set down his fork. "Lucia, let's talk in my study." Here it was. Patricia stood up too. "I'll come with you." Of course she would. I followed them down the hall to my father's office, a room lined with bookshelves and diplomas. He sat behind his desk, Patricia standing beside him like a sentry. I took the chair across from him, feeling like I was about to be interrogated. He leaned back, folding his hands. "I heard you bought an apartment." I nodded. "Yes, I did. I worked really hard for it." He nodded slowly. "That's good, but we have a situation." Situation. That word hung in the air. "What situation?" I asked carefully. He exchanged another look with Patricia. She nodded encouragingly. He cleared his throat. "Amber and Dylan are getting married in 6 months." I waited. "I know. Congratulations to them," he continued. "They need a place to live. Dylan just started his residency at the hospital. They can't afford rent on his salary, and Amber's job at the boutique doesn't pay much. I still didn't understand where this was going. Okay, so they can stay here, right? You have plenty of room. My father shook his head. This house is too far from the hospital. Dylan would have to commute over an hour each way. That's not feasible with his schedule. I frowned. So they need to find something closer. Patricia stepped in. Your apartment is downtown. Perfect location. Close to the hospital, close to Amber's work. It's ideal. My blood ran cold. What are you saying? My father leaned forward. Your father thinks it would be nice if you let Amber and Dylan stay at your place. I blinked. Stay like visit? He shook his head. No, move in, permanently. The room spun. I gripped the armrests of my chair. You want me to give them my apartment? He held up a hand. We're asking you to help family. That's what family does. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, that's my home. I just bought it. He nodded. I know, but family helps family. Amber is starting her life. She needs stability. Patricia chimed in again. You can stay here. We have an extra room. It's not ideal, but it's temporary. Temporary. They wanted me to give up my apartment and move back into my father's house, back into the place where I'd felt like a ghost for years. You want me to give up my apartment and move back here? I repeated, trying to make sense of it. My father nodded. It's temporary, just until they get on their feet, maybe a year or two. A year or two. I'd worked 7 years to buy that place. This doesn't make sense, I said, my voice shaking. I paid for that apartment. It's mine. My father's expression hardened. And we're asking you to share it with family. Amber's getting married. That's a big step. She deserves stability. The word deserves hit me like a slap. Deserves? What about what I deserve? He leaned back. You're single. You don't need that much space. Amber's building a family. That's more important. More important. My dreams, my work, my home, all less important than Amber's wedding. Amber's always been the responsible one, Patricia added. She's ready for this next step. I stared at her. Responsible. Amber, who'd never held a job for more than a year. Amber, whose college was paid for. Amber, who got everything handed to her. Responsible, I paid for my own apartment. My father's voice rose. Yes, with your job, but Amber's building a family. That's a bigger responsibility. I stood up my chair, scraping against the floor. No. The word came out stronger than I felt. I'm sorry, but no. That apartment is mine. My father stood too. Lucia, don't be selfish. Selfish. There it was, the accusation I'd been waiting for. Selfish, I worked 7 years for that apartment. He raised his voice. And Amber's worked hard planning this wedding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's not the same thing. Patricia stepped between us. Lucia, your father is just asking you to help your sister. Sister. The word burned. She's not my sister. It slipped out before I could stop it. The room went silent. My father's face turned red. How dare you? I felt tears prick my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. But Dad, you can't ask me to do this. It's not fair. He came around the desk. Fair life isn't fair, Lucia, but family is supposed to be there for each other. I backed toward the door. I am family, and nobody's ever been there for me. His jaw clenched. I see. You've made your choice. I looked at him, then at Patricia, then back at him. Dad, please try to understand. His voice went cold. I think you should leave. My legs felt weak as I walked to the door. In the hallway, I saw Amber standing there, arms crossed. She had a small smile on her face, like she'd been listening to everything and was pleased with how it went. Our eyes met for a second. Hers were triumphant. Mine were filled with tears I wouldn't let fall in front of her. I walked past her out the front door into my car. My hands shook so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. I drove home crying, big, ugly sobs that made it hard to see the road. I pulled over twice just to catch my breath. By the time I got back to my apartment, I was exhausted. I walked inside and just stood there in the dark. This beautiful space I'd created. Mine. And they wanted to take it away. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "Your father is very disappointed." I threw my phone on the couch and curled up on the floor, finally letting myself fall apart. The next morning I woke up on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes. My eyes were swollen from crying. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did. My boss was understanding. "Take care of yourself, Lucia. We'll see you when you're ready." I made coffee and sat on the balcony trying to process what had happened. My father wanted me to give up my home. For Amber. Again. Everything always came back to Amber. I tried to focus on work the next day, but it was impossible. My mind kept replaying the conversation. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. By noon, Patricia had called 5 times. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I let them go to voicemail and listened later. The first one was almost pleasant. "Lucia, please call back. We need to discuss this calmly." The second one was firmer. "You're being unreasonable. Call your father." The third one was accusatory. "Think about what's best for the family, not just yourself." The fourth message was my father. "Lucia, I'm very upset. I thought I raised you better than this." The fifth was Patricia again. "Fine, don't answer, but this isn't over." I deleted all of them and turned off my phone. My coworkers noticed something was wrong. Hannah came by my desk. "You okay? You seem really distracted." I forced a smile. "Just family stuff. I'll be fine." She squeezed my shoulder. "If you need to talk, I'm here." I nodded, grateful but not ready to explain. That evening, text messages from Amber started flooding in. I'd turned my phone back on to check work emails, and there they were. "Wow, didn't know you were this selfish." Another one. "Mom said you refused to help me." And another. "I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You've always been jealous of me." Jealous. I read that word 3 times. Jealous of what? Of being the favorite, of getting everything handed to her? Maybe I was, but not in the way she thought. I typed back, trying to stay calm. "Amber, I worked for that apartment. It's not about you." Her response came immediately. "Everything's about you, isn't it, poor Lucia? Always the victim." That stung. "I'm not playing victim. I'm just not giving you my home." She replied, "Dad's right. You don't deserve that apartment." Deserve. There was that word again. I felt anger rising. "And you do," I typed, "because Daddy paid for everything your whole life." I regretted it the moment I hit send, but it was too late. Her response was vicious. "At least I have a life. At least I'm getting married. What do you have, a lonely apartment and a chip on your shoulder?" I stared at those words. Then I typed one last message. "I'm not giving you my home. Stop asking." Her reply was simple. "We'll see about that." I blocked her number after that. I couldn't take any more. 3 days later, my father called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. His voice wasn't angry this time. It was measured, controlled. "Lucia, I'm giving you one more chance." I sat down. "Dad, please try to understand my side." He cut me off. "Your side? You're thinking only of yourself." I closed my eyes. "That's not true. I just worked really hard for this, and I can't give it up." He sighed, the sound heavy with disappointment. "Amber needs this. She's starting a life with Dylan. They need a foundation." "I needed a foundation too," I said quietly. "When Mom died, I needed you, and you gave everything to Patricia and Amber instead." Silence. Then, "That's not fair." I laughed bitterly. "Isn't it? You paid for Amber's private school. I went to public school. You paid her college tuition. I have student loans. You bought her a car. I took the bus for years." His voice hardened. "You were always more independent. Amber needed more support." Independent, the excuse he'd always used. I was independent because I had to be. He ignored that. "You can start over. You're young." I shook my head even though he couldn't see. "I'm 32. I'm not that young." He scoffed. "Exactly. You should be married by now. But you're not, so you don't need that space. Amber and Dylan are starting a family. That's what matters." The implication was clear. I was a failure because I was single. Amber was successful because she was getting married. "So my life doesn't matter because I'm not married?" I asked. "That's not what I said." But it was. That's exactly what he meant. The conversation ended badly. He told me to think about it. I told him I already had. We hung up both frustrated, but then he called again 2 days later. "Come to dinner Sunday. We'll talk again." I didn't want to, but something told me I should go. Maybe to get closure, maybe to try one more time to make him understand. I agreed. Sunday arrived too quickly. I drove to his house feeling sick. When I walked in, I realized this wasn't just family dinner. There were other people there. Margaret, Patricia's sister, Stephen, Patricia's brother. They'd assembled reinforcements. This was an ambush. Everyone was overly friendly when I arrived, hugging me, asking how I was. I smiled and played along, but I knew what this was. Dinner was elaborate. Patricia had clearly put effort into it. Prime rib, roasted vegetables, homemade bread. We ate at the dining room table, all 6 of us. Amber and Dylan sat at one end. I sat at the other, feeling like I was on trial. The conversation was carefully steered toward family values. Margaret told a story about how she'd once given up her apartment to help her brother. Stephen talked about lending his car to his sister for a year. Every story had the same moral: family sacrifice, family first. Patricia smiled at me over her wineglass. "See, Lucia. That's what family does. We help each other." I pushed food around my plate. "Those are nice stories." Margaret leaned forward. "Honey Amber's about to start a marriage. That's sacred. She needs support." Stephen nodded. "You're single. You can live anywhere. You have flexibility." I looked at my father. He was watching me, waiting. This whole dinner was orchestrated to pressure me. After we ate, my father stood. "Lucia, we all think you should reconsider." There it was. The whole room turned to look at me. Margaret spoke first. "Sweetheart, think about Amber. She's so young, starting this new chapter. Wouldn't it be wonderful to help her?" I looked at Amber. She was sitting there, hands folded, looking like the perfect victim. Stephen jumped in. "When I was your age, I made sacrifices for family. It's just what you do." And Patricia added, "Your father has done so much for you growing up. This is a way to give back." Something in me snapped. "Like what?" I asked. "What has he done for me?" My father's face darkened. "Lucia." But I couldn't stop. "He paid for Amber's college, not mine. He bought her a car, not me. He sent her to private school, not me. So tell me, what exactly has he done that I should be grateful for?" The room went silent. Margaret looked uncomfortable. Stephen shifted in his seat. Patricia's face was tight with anger. My father stood up. "I provided a roof over your head. I fed you. I clothed you. That's what a father does." I stood too. "That's the bare minimum. That's not love. That's obligation." His voice rose. "How dare you?" I felt tears coming but pushed them back. "You want to know what Mom would think? She'd be furious. She'd be furious that you replaced her so fast, that you gave everything to your new family and left me with nothing." He stepped toward me. "Don't you dare bring your mother into this." But I was done being quiet. She raised me to be kind, yes, but she also raised me to stand up for myself. And that's what I'm doing. He pointed at the door. I think you should leave. I grabbed my purse. Gladly. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. In my car, I sat shaking. I'd never stood up to him like that. It felt terrifying and liberating at the same time. 2 days later, Amber posted on Facebook. I saw it because a mutual cousin liked it. So grateful for family who support me during this exciting time, unlike some people who only think about themselves. She didn't tag me, but everyone knew. The comments were brutal. Distant relatives I barely knew wrote things like, "Some people have no family values." Another said, "Weddings are expensive and stressful. Real family helps out." I felt publicly shamed. I wanted to respond to defend myself, but I knew it would only make things worse. Instead, I closed Facebook and tried to focus on anything else, but the damage was done. My phone rang later that day. It was Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. I answered, hoping for support. "Lucia, honey, I heard about what's happening." Relief washed over me. "Aunt Linda, She cut me off. "Your father called me. He's very hurt." My heart sank. "He told you his version." She sighed. "He said you refused to help Amber. Honey, I think you should do the right thing." The right thing. Everyone had an opinion on what that was. "Aunt Linda, I bought that apartment with my own money. Why should I give it up?" She sounded disappointed. "It's just an apartment, honey. Amber's getting married. That's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Just an apartment. My dream, my hard work, reduced to just an apartment." "I can't believe you're taking his side." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm not taking sides. I'm trying to keep the family together." I hung up. I couldn't listen anymore. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was wrong. Was I being selfish? Should I just give in to keep the peace? I thought about all the times I'd been compromised, swallowed my feelings. When Patricia redecorated and erased my mother, when Amber got my old room, when I was left out of family photos because I was at college. Every time I told myself it didn't matter. But it did. It all mattered. I got up and walked to my living room. In the moonlight, I could see the outline of my furniture, my plants, the painting my mother made. This was mine. I'd earned it. And I wasn't going to let them take it from me. I went to my closet and pulled down a box from the top shelf. Inside were things my mother had left me. Photos, letters, her wedding ring, and at the bottom a sealed envelope. "For Lucia, open when you need strength." I'd never opened it. I'd been waiting for the right moment. This felt like it. I carefully broke the seal and pulled out several documents. There was a handwritten letter from my mother dated a week before she died. My hands shook as I began to read. "My darling Lucia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry I can't be there to watch you grow up, but I want you to know that I've taken care of you. I've set up a trust fund with money from my parents' estate, $200,000. It will be yours when you turn 18. Your father is the trustee. Use this money for college, for a house, for your dreams. I love you forever. Mom." A trust fund, $200,000. I'd turned 18 14 years ago. I'd never received any money. I kept reading. There were bank statements, letters from Wells Fargo confirming the trust setup. My mother had planned everything, but I'd never seen a penny. Where had the money gone? I grabbed my phone and took pictures of every document. Then I sat there on the floor, realization dawning slowly and terribly. My father had taken it. He had to have. He was the trustee. Only he could access it. The next morning I called Wells Fargo. After being transferred 3 times, I finally got someone who could help. "I'm trying to find information about a trust fund that was set up for me." The woman asked for my details. "Can you hold, please?" She came back 5 minutes later. Ms. Thompson, I see the trust was established in 2008. It was closed in 2011. Closed. Closed by whom? I already knew the answer. By Robert Thompson, the trustee, my father. Where did the money go? She paused. I'm sorry, but I can't disclose that information without a court order. I needed a lawyer. I searched online for estate attorneys in Seattle and found James Morrison. His reviews were good, and he specialized in trust disputes. I called and made an appointment for the next day. That night, I couldn't think about anything else. My father had stolen from me. Stolen money my mother had left for me. Used it for who knows what. No wonder he'd always said Mom didn't leave much. He'd lied. He'd lied for 14 years. My appointment with James was at 2 in the afternoon. I brought all the documents. He was a kind man in his 50s with gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he examined the documents carefully. This is very clear. Your mother established a trust with you as the beneficiary. Your father was obligated to transfer the funds when you turned 18. I nodded, but I never got anything. He frowned. Then he breached his fiduciary duty. That's serious. He looked up at me. We can file a lawsuit, but first we need to find out where the money went. I'll get a court order for the bank records. While I waited for the legal process, the pressure from my family intensified. My father sent an email. The subject line read, "Final warning." Inside it said, "Lucia, this is your last chance. Amber needs an answer by Friday. After that, I'll be making some difficult decisions about our relationship." Difficult decisions. Code for cutting me out. Patricia texted too. "You're breaking your father's heart. How can you be so cruel?" Cruel. I was cruel for wanting to keep my own home. Amber escalated on social media. She posted an Instagram story showing an apartment similar to mine with the location tagged as downtown Seattle. The caption said, "Dream home for newlyweds." The message was clear. She wanted people to know she was trying to get an apartment and that someone was standing in her way. Comments poured in. "Gorgeous, I hope you get it." And, "Your sister should help you." I felt exposed, attacked from all sides. Then the extended family started pulling away. Aunt Linda sent a text. "I'm disappointed in you, Lucia. Your mother would be ashamed." That one hurt more than all the others. My mother would be ashamed. My mother would be furious at what my father had done. Margaret, Patricia's sister, commented on a Facebook post of mine from months ago. Some people forget where they came from. It was petty and public. Stephen, Patricia's brother, called and left a voicemail. "You're making a big mistake, kiddo. Family is everything. Don't throw it away over an apartment." I blocked them all. I had to. It was self-preservation. My father called again, his voice different this time, colder. "Lucia, you're forcing my hand." I took a breath. "What do you mean?" He said slowly. "If you don't help Amber, I'll have to reconsider our relationship." There it was, the threat I'd been expecting. "Are you saying you'll cut me off?" He didn't hesitate. "I'm saying there are consequences for selfishness. I've been patient, but you're testing me." I felt my throat tighten. "Dad, I have a right to my own home." His voice turned hard. "And I have a right to decide who's part of this family. I'm updating my will. You should know that." My heart stopped. "So you're threatening to disinherit me?" He replied, "I'm prioritizing who deserves my estate. If you can't help your sister when she needs it, why should I leave you anything?" The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. I sat there holding my phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. This was real. He was really going to do this. A week later, James called. "Lucia, I have the bank records." My hands went cold. "What did you find?" He said carefully. "I think you should come to my office. This is something we should discuss in person." I drove there in a daze. When I arrived, James had papers spread across his desk. He gestured for me to sit. Your father withdrew the entire trust fund 13 years ago. I already suspected this, but hearing it confirmed was different. All of it. He nodded. $200,000. He transferred it to an account under his name, and then over the next 4 years, he spent it. My voice came out as a whisper. On what? James slid papers toward me. I have receipts, bank transfers. It looks like he paid for private school tuition. 4 years at Lakeside Academy. $40,000 per year. I did the math. $160,000. That's not all, James continued. College tuition at the University of Washington, approximately $30,000 over 4 years. There's also a car purchase, a BMW, $35,000. My vision blurred. He used my inheritance to pay for Amber's life. James nodded. Yes, I'm sorry. I couldn't speak. All those years, when I'd struggled with student loans, when I'd worked 2 jobs to afford textbooks, when I'd taken the bus in the rain because I couldn't afford a car, my father had been spending my mother's money on Amber, money that was supposed to be mine. What can we do? I finally asked. James leaned back. James leaned. We have a strong case, breach of fiduciary duty, possibly theft. You can sue for the full amount plus interest. At 5% annual interest over 13 years, we're looking at approximately $330,000 total. I felt sick and angry and heartbroken all at once. I want to confront him. What do I need? James picked up a folder. I'll prepare copies of everything. The trust documents, bank records, receipts. You'll have proof of every dollar he took. I took the folder, feeling its weight in my hands. Thank you. He looked at me with sympathy. This is going to be hard, but you're doing the right thing. I left his office and sat in my car for a long time just breathing. Then I called my father. We need to talk, now. My father suggested meeting at his house, but I refused. No, my apartment, tonight, 7 o'clock. He tried to argue, but I hung up. This was happening on my terms. At 6:50, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find my father standing there with a woman I didn't recognize. This is Mrs. Henderson, my lawyer, he said. They walked in without waiting for an invitation. Mrs. Henderson was tall and severe-looking, carrying a leather briefcase. My father's face was set in hard lines. They sat on my couch without being asked. Mrs. Henderson opened her briefcase. Ms. Thompson, we're here to resolve this matter quickly. She pulled out papers. Mr. Thompson has prepared documents for you to sign, transfer of property. You'll sign over the apartment to Amber, and in return your father will reconsider the changes to his will. I looked at the papers, quitclaim deed. They'd actually drawn up legal documents to take my home. You're serious. My father leaned forward. Lucia, I've been patient, but enough is enough. His voice was hard businesslike. I'm prepared to disinherit you completely. Right now, my will leaves you 30% of my estate. That's approximately $400,000. That will be gone. Everything will go to Amber and Patricia. Mrs. Henderson slid the papers across my coffee table. If you sign today, your father will reconsider. You'll remain in the will. I stared at the documents. This felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. You can't force me to sign this. My father's jaw tightened. No, but I can make your life very difficult. I've already spoken to Martin. Martin, my CEO. My blood went cold. What? He crossed his arms. Martin and I play golf together. Did you know that? I didn't. I mentioned you've been distracted lately. Family issues affecting your work. My hands started shaking. I haven't been distracted. My work has been fine. Mrs. Henderson interjected smoothly. Mr. Thompson simply expressed concern for your well-being. He mentioned you seemed stressed. My father added, Martin said he'd noticed your performance slipping. That was a lie. My performance reviews had been excellent, but the seed was planted. My father continued, it would be unfortunate if your career suffered because of family drama. Sign the papers. This all goes away. You keep your job, you stay in the family, everyone's happy. I stood up, my voice shaking. Everyone except me. He stood too. You're being dramatic. Something broke inside me. All the years of holding back, of being the good daughter, of accepting less. You never loved me. The words came out raw. My father's face hardened. Don't be ridiculous. I laughed a harsh sound. You loved Mom, but when she died you erased her. Married Patricia 2 years later. Brought Amber into our home. And I became invisible. That's not true, he said, but there was no conviction in his voice. I was crying now, unable to stop. You paid for Amber's private school. I went to public school. You paid her college. I have loans I'm still paying off. You bought her a car at 16. I took the bus until I was 19 and could afford my own beater. My father's face was red. You were more capable. You didn't need help. Those words, the excuse I'd heard my whole life. I was a child. I needed my father. I needed you to show up for me just once. Mrs. Henderson stood. Mr. Thompson, perhaps we should take a moment. But my father wasn't done. I did my best, raising you alone after your mother died. I shook my head. You weren't alone. You had Patricia 6 months later. He stepped closer. Amber needed more support. She was sensitive. I felt something snap. And I lost my mother at 15. While you were dating Patricia, I was crying myself to sleep every night while you were playing Happy Family. I was eating lunch alone at school because my friends didn't know what to say to the girl whose mom died. The room went silent. My father looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Henderson glanced between us. He cleared his throat. This isn't about the past. It's about now. Amber is getting married. That's a milestone. She deserves this apartment more than you do right now. I wiped my tears. Why? Because she's your favorite. He didn't deny it. Because she's proven she's responsible. She's getting married, starting a family. Those are adult decisions. I walked to my bedroom and grabbed the folder James had prepared. My hands were steadier now, fueled by anger and adrenaline. I came back and dropped it on the coffee table. You want to talk about responsibility? Let's talk about this. My father looked at the folder suspiciously. What's that? I opened it. Mom's trust fund documents. His face went pale. Actually pale. Mrs. Henderson leaned forward. What trust fund? I pulled out the papers one by one. My mother established a trust for me when I was diagnosed with cancer. $200,000 from her parents' estate, to be released when I turned 18. Dad was the trustee. I looked at Mrs. Henderson. Do you know what a trustee is obligated to do? She nodded slowly. Manage the trust in the beneficiary's best interest. I pulled out the bank statements. He withdrew it all, 13 years ago. Every single dollar. I slid them toward her. Mrs. Henderson picked them up, her professional demeanor cracking slightly as she read. I wasn't done. And he spent it. Want to know on what? I pulled out the receipts James had compiled. Lakeside Academy tuition for Amber. $40,000 per year for 4 years. That's $160,000. My father opened his mouth, but no words came out. I continued, University of Washington tuition for Amber, $30,000 over 4 years. I pulled out the last receipt. And a BMW for Amber's 16th birthday, $35,000. I looked directly at my father. You stole my inheritance, the money my mother left me, And you spent it on your stepdaughter. The room was silent. Henderson was staring at my father, her expression shocked. He finally found his voice. Lucia, I can explain. I crossed my arms. Explain what? That you committed fraud. Mrs. Henderson set down the papers. Mr. Thompson, is this true? He ran his hand through his hair. I needed the money. Amber's education was expensive. I was going to pay Lucia back. I laughed bitterly. When it's been 13 years. He stood up agitated. Things came up. Patricia's medical bills. The house needed repairs. There was never enough. I picked up my mother's handwritten letter and read it aloud. Use this money for college, for a house, for your dreams. My voice broke. She wanted me to have this, and you took it. Mrs. Henderson stood up. Mr. Thompson, I need to speak with you privately. This is a serious breach of fiduciary duty. If Ms. Thompson pursues this legally, you could face criminal charges. My father's face was a mix of anger and fear. Lucia, you're not actually going to sue your own father. I looked at him, this man who was supposed to protect me. You stole from me. You lied to me. You tried to manipulate me into giving up my home. Why wouldn't I? He pointed a finger at me. Because I'm your father. I shook my head. You stopped being my father a long time ago. Mrs. Henderson tried to intervene. Let's all calm down. I'm sure we can reach an agreement without litigation. I picked up the folder. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave my apartment right now. You're never going to contact me again asking for anything. And you're going to repay every cent of that trust fund. $200,000 plus interest. My lawyer calculated it at $330,000 total. My father scoffed. I don't have that kind of money. I shrugged. Sell the house? Take out a loan? I don't care, but you will pay me back. He stepped toward me. Or what? I met his eyes. Or I file a lawsuit. Criminal charges for embezzlement. And I'll make sure everyone knows. Your golf buddies, your church friends, everyone in your precious social circle. They'll all know you stole from your own daughter to pay for your stepdaughter's life. Mrs. Henderson's voice was sharp. Ms. Thompson, that's defamation. I smiled. It's only defamation if it's not true. And I have proof. I held up the folder. Bank records, receipts, everything documented. Want me to post it on Facebook? I'm sure Margaret and Stephen would love to see where their brother-in-law's money really went. My father's face turned purple. You wouldn't dare. I tilted my head. Try me. Mrs. Henderson gathered her papers quickly. Mr. Thompson, we need to leave now. This conversation is no longer productive. But my father couldn't let it go. Lucia, you're being irrational. I'm your father. You owe me respect. I walked to the door and opened it. I don't owe you anything. You owe me. $330,000. You have 30 days. After that, my lawyer files the paperwork. Mrs. Henderson practically pushed my father toward the door. He stopped in the doorway, his face a mask of rage and something else. Fear, maybe. Or shame. You'll regret this. I looked at him calmly. The only thing I regret is not standing up to you sooner. He opened his mouth to say more, but Mrs. Henderson pulled him away. I closed the door and locked it. Then I slid down to the floor and just sat there shaking. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. My phone rang almost immediately. Amber. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times. Then the text started. What did you do? Dad just called me. How could you? You're destroying this family. I blocked her number. I was done. I sat on my floor until the shaking stopped. Then I called James. I did it. His voice was warm. How did he react? I laughed shakily. About as well as you'd expect. He brought his lawyer. They tried to get me to sign over my apartment. James made a sound of disapproval. And I smiled. I showed him everything. Bank records, receipts, all of it. His lawyer looked like she wanted to disappear. James chuckled. Good. What happens now? I leaned my head back against the door. I gave him 30 days to repay me. 330,000. After that, we file. James was quiet for a moment. Lucia, you should know. Even if we win, you might never see that money. He might not have it. I closed my eyes. I know, but this isn't really about money. It's about the truth, about not letting him get away with it anymore. James's voice was gentle. You're very brave. I'll prepare the formal demand letter tomorrow. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment. The sun was setting, casting orange light through my windows. I felt exhausted, but lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there. The next few weeks were chaos. James sent the formal demand letter via certified mail. My father signed for it but didn't respond. Instead, the family warfare escalated. Amber called me from different numbers screaming accusations. Patricia sent emails that ranged from pleading to threatening. Distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years called to tell me I was tearing the family apart. I blocked them all. I changed my phone number. I made my social media private. I created boundaries I should have set years ago. At work, I threw myself into a new campaign. It was easier to focus on metrics and strategies than on the mess of my personal life. Hannah noticed I was different. You seem, I don't know, stronger. I smiled. I'm finally fighting back. She hugged me. Good. It's about time. 3 weeks after I gave my father the ultimatum, his lawyer contacted James. They wanted to negotiate. James called me immediately. They're offering a settlement. $150,000 immediately. The rest in installments over 5 years. I thought about it. What do you recommend? James was honest. If we go to court, we'll probably win. But it could take 2 years or more. Legal fees will add up, and there's no guarantee he'll actually have the money even if we win a judgment. I understood. So take the settlement, James said carefully. It's not ideal, but you'll get something, and you can move forward with your life instead of being tied up in court. I made my decision. I'll take it, but I want a written apology, formal, admitting what he did. James negotiated for 2 more days. Finally, the agreement was reached. $150,000 immediately. Remaining balance paid over 5 years with interest, and a letter of apology. We scheduled a meeting at James's office to finalize everything. I drove there on a Thursday afternoon, my stomach in knots. My father was already there with Mrs. Henderson. We sat across from each other at a conference table. It felt like a business transaction. Maybe that's all we were now. Mrs. Henderson slid papers across the table. The settlement agreement. Please review. James and I read through it carefully. Everything was there. Payment terms, apology letter, mutual non-disclosure clause, which I'd insisted on. I didn't want him talking about this publicly any more than he did. When I was satisfied, I signed. My father signed. Our lawyers witnessed. Then Mrs. Henderson pulled out a cashier's check. $150,000 made out to me. I took it feeling the weight of the paper. My father cleared his throat. The letter. Mrs. Henderson handed me an envelope. I opened it and read, Lucia, I'm sorry for taking the money your mother left you. I was wrong. I let my responsibilities as a husband and stepfather overshadow my duties as a father to you. You deserved better. I should have honored your mother's wishes. I hope one day you can forgive me. It was typed formal, but at the bottom was his signature, Robert Thompson. I folded it carefully and put it in my bag. We all stood. My father looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in what felt like years. Can we start over? He asked quietly. I felt a pang of something, not quite forgiveness, not quite hope, but something. I don't know, I answered honestly. Maybe someday, but not now. I need time. He nodded, looking older somehow. I understand. We walked out of the office in opposite directions. I got in my car and drove to the bank. I deposited the check, watched the number appear in my account. $150,000. Not the full amount, but something. I used some of it to pay off my student loans. All $60,000 of them. Gone. I used more to invest setting up a retirement account I'd never been able to afford. The rest went into savings. For the first time in my adult life, I felt financially secure. Not rich, but stable. Safe. 2 months later, Amber got married. I knew because Patricia sent me an invitation. It came in the mail, formal and expensive. I wasn't surprised to receive it, though I doubted they actually wanted me there. It felt like an obligation invite. I didn't RSVP. I didn't go. On the day of the wedding, I went hiking with friends. We drove up to Mount Rainier, spent the day on the trails. The air was clean and cold. The views were breathtaking. Sophie, one of my new friends, took a photo of me at the summit. I was smiling genuinely, smiling. That night we had dinner at a small restaurant in a mountain town. We laughed about nothing and everything, and I realized I felt happy. Actually, truly happy. I didn't need to be at that wedding. I didn't need my father's approval. I just needed this. Friends who chose me. A life I was building on my own terms. Over the next few months, I started to rebuild. Not my relationship with my father, but myself. I joined a young professionals group in Seattle, met people who didn't know anything about my family drama. To them, I was just Lucia, strong, independent kind. I started dating someone I met at a networking event. Tyler was an architect, thoughtful and gentle. When he asked about my family, I gave him the short version. It's complicated. We're not close. He didn't push. He just accepted me as I was. That felt revolutionary. I also redecorated my apartment slightly, added more photos of my mother, created a small shelf dedicated to her memory. Her paintings, some of her jewelry, the letters she'd written me. It became a place of peace instead of pain. Every morning I'd look at it and feel her presence. Not sad anymore, just grateful I'd had her even if it wasn't long enough. My father sent the monthly payments exactly on time, never a day late. We didn't speak otherwise. No phone calls, no texts, just automated bank transfers. It was better that way. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard bits about Amber's life. She and Dylan were living in a small apartment in Capitol Hill. Money was tight. Dylan's residency was demanding and low-paying. Amber had to work part-time at a retail store. They were struggling. Part of me, a small part, felt vindicated. But mostly, I just felt neutral. Her life wasn't my concern anymore. I'd moved on. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I'd given in, if I'd signed over my apartment. Would they have been grateful? Would it have brought us closer? Or would they have just taken and taken until there was nothing left of me? I knew the answer. They would have taken everything, because that's what they'd always done. My father took my inheritance. Amber took my place in the family. Patricia took my mother's home. I'd been giving pieces of myself away my whole life, hoping it would be enough, hoping they'd finally see me, value me, love me. But it would never have been enough. Because the problem wasn't me. It was them. Understanding that was freeing in a way I couldn't fully explain. I started therapy around this time. Once a week, I'd sit in Dr. Chen's office and unpack everything. The grief over my mother, the anger at my father, the complicated feelings about Amber. Dr. Chen helped me see patterns I'd never noticed before. "You've been trying to earn love that should have been freely given," she said one session. That hit me hard. "What do you mean?" She leaned forward. "Love from a parent isn't something you earn. It's something you deserve simply by existing. Your father made you feel like you had to prove your worth. But you never did. You were always worthy. I cried in that session, big healing tears. I was learning to separate my worth from their treatment of me. It was hard work. Some days I still felt angry. Some days I felt sad about the family I'd lost, but most days I felt grateful. Grateful I'd found the strength to say no. Grateful I'd discovered the truth. Grateful I was building a life that was truly mine. 6 months after the settlement, I visited my mother's grave. I hadn't been there in a while. It was a clear Saturday morning, the kind where Seattle actually lives up to its beautiful reputation. I drove to Evergreen Cemetery and parked near her section. I bought sunflowers on the way, her favorite. The cemetery was quiet, just a few other people scattered among the headstones. I found her grave easily. Sarah Thompson, beloved wife and mother, the dates of her too short life carved in granite. I sat down on the grass next to the headstone, not caring if my jeans got dirty. "Hi, Mom," I said quietly. "I'm sorry it's been a while." I arranged the sunflowers in the built-in vase. "A lot has happened. I bought an apartment. It's beautiful. You would love it. There's this huge window overlooking the water, and in the mornings the light comes in and makes everything golden. I hung your painting in the living room. Remember that one you did of our backyard with all the wildflowers? It looks perfect there." I took a breath. "I found out about the trust fund, the money you left me." My voice cracked. "Dad took it. He spent it on Amber. I didn't know for 13 years, but I found your letter and I fought for it. I got some of it back. Not all, but some." Tears rolled down my face. "I hope you're proud of me. I hope I did the right thing. Standing up to him was the hardest thing I've ever done. He said you'd be ashamed of me for causing trouble, but I don't think that's true. I think you'd be proud. You always told me to be strong, to not let anyone make me feel small. I'm trying, Mom. I'm really trying." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves of a nearby tree. It felt like an answer, like she was there listening. "I'm okay now," I continued. "Better than okay, actually. I have good friends. I'm dating someone nice. Work is going well. And my apartment feels like home. Real home, not the place where I felt like a ghost. I'm building a life you would have wanted for me." I sat there for a long time, just being present. When I finally stood to leave, I felt lighter. Not because the pain was gone, but because I'd shared it. Because I'd honored her memory by fighting for what she wanted for me. Driving home, I thought about healing, how it's not linear, how some days I still felt angry at my father, how I sometimes wondered if I should reach out to Amber, try to build some kind of relationship, but then I'd remember how she'd treated me, how she'd publicly shamed me, how she'd never once considered my side of things. And I'd remember that I didn't owe anyone a relationship just because we shared DNA or a house growing up. Family was supposed to be the people who loved you, supported you, celebrated your wins, not the people who demanded sacrifices for their own benefit. Over the past months, I'd learned so much about boundaries, about saying no, about protecting my peace. I'd learned that choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. I'd spent so long trying to be small, to not make waves, to accept whatever scraps of affection my father threw my way. But that version of me was exhausted. She'd been running on empty for years. The new version, the one who fought back, was tired too. But it was a good tired, the kind that comes from standing up for yourself, from knowing your worth, from refusing to accept less than you deserve. One evening, I was sitting on my balcony watching the sunset when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello." There was a pause. "Then Lucia, it's Dad." My heart started pounding. We hadn't spoken since the meeting at the lawyer's office. "Hi." My voice was cautious. He cleared his throat. "I just wanted to let you know I sent this month's payment." I checked my banking app. Sure enough, there it was. "I got it. Thank you." Another pause. "How are you?" Such a simple question, but loaded with so much. I'm good, I answered honestly. Work is going well. Life is good. That's good. He sounded strained. I'm glad. Silence stretched between us. Then he said, I know I don't have the right to ask, but do you think we could have coffee sometime just to talk? I looked out at the Seattle skyline, the lights just starting to come on as dusk fell. Did I want that? Part of me did. Part of me missed having a father, even if ours had never been the relationship I needed. But another part of me, the stronger part, knew I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. I don't think so, I said gently. Not yet, maybe not ever. I'm sorry. He was quiet. I understand. I just wanted you to know that I think about you. And I'm sorry, truly sorry. Thank you for saying that, I replied. And I meant it. The apology didn't fix anything. It didn't undo the years of neglect or the stolen money or the way he'd chosen Amber over me again and again, but it was something. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up before he could respond, and I felt okay about it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just at peace with my decision. Some relationships are worth fighting for. Others you have to let go of to save yourself. This was the latter. Tyler came over that night with Thai food. We ate on my balcony talking about his latest project and my upcoming presentation at work. Normal things, good things. He didn't ask about the phone call even though he could probably tell something had happened. He just held my hand across the table and smiled at me. This, I thought. This is what I deserve. Someone who shows up without being asked. Someone who values me without conditions. Someone who doesn't make me fight for basic respect and care. Later, as I got ready for bed, I looked around my apartment. At the furniture I'd chosen. The plants I'd nurtured. The photos of people who truly loved me. My mother's painting. The books on my shelves. Every piece told a story of who I was becoming. This space was mine. Not because my father gave it to me, not because anyone else allowed it, but because I'd worked for it, fought for it, refused to give it up, even when the pressure was overwhelming. I thought about all the people who'd asked me if I regretted fighting with my father, friends who didn't know the full story, acquaintances who thought families should forgive everything, even strangers on the internet because, yes, I'd eventually shared a version of this story online and got a mix of support and criticism. Some people said I should have just given Amber the apartment, that it wasn't worth losing family over. But they didn't understand. It was never about the apartment. Not really. It was about my worth, about refusing to be treated as less than, about honoring my mother's wishes and my own hard work, about setting a boundary and sticking to it, even when everyone told me I was wrong. That fight, that moment when I handed my father those documents and watched his face go pale, wasn't about revenge. It was about truth, about saying, I see what you did, and I'm not going to pretend anymore. About reclaiming the parts of myself I'd given away, trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Looking back now, a year after everything happened, I can see how much I've changed. I'm not the same person who stood in that real estate office crying happy tears over getting an apartment. I'm stronger, more certain of myself, less willing to accept crumbs and call it a feast. My relationship with my father is still distant. We're not estranged exactly. He sends the payments. I acknowledge them with a simple thank you text. But we don't have conversations. We don't see each other. And I'm okay with that. Maybe someday it'll be different. Maybe we'll rebuild something. But if we don't, that's okay too. Amber and I haven't spoken since that day I blocked her number. I heard through the grapevine that she eventually found out about the trust fund, that she learned her private school and college were paid for with money meant for me. I don't know how she reacted. Part of me hopes she felt guilty. But honestly, I don't spend much time thinking about her anymore. She's living her life, I'm living mine, and those lives don't intersect. Patricia sends a Christmas card every year, generic with a printed family photo that doesn't include me. I throw them away without opening them. The extended family has mostly stopped reaching out. A few cousins still keep in touch, the ones who understood my side, but the others, the ones who called me selfish and ungrateful, have faded away. I don't miss them. What I've gained is so much more valuable than what I lost. I have friends who choose me every day. I have Tyler, who's become someone important in my life. We talk about moving in together eventually, but we're taking it slow. Building something solid and real. I have a career I'm proud of. Just last month, I got another promotion. Senior Director of Marketing. Corner office. Team of 5 people reporting to me. I'm good at what I do, and people recognize that. I have financial stability. The monthly payments from my father are almost done. In a year, I'll be free of that connection too. My student loans are paid off. I have savings. I have investments. I'm building wealth slowly but surely. Most importantly, I have peace. Real deep peace that comes from living authentically. From not pretending everything's okay when it's not. From setting boundaries and keeping them. From knowing that I fought for myself when it mattered most. Some people think healing means reconciliation, that you have to forgive and forget and rebuild relationships to be whole. But that's not always true. Sometimes healing means walking away, means saying this hurts me and I'm choosing me, means building a life so full and rich that the people who left don't leave a hole. I still visit my mother's grave every few months, still bring sunflowers, still talk to her about my life. I think she'd be proud of the woman I've become. Not because I'm perfect, but because I'm true to myself. Because I didn't let anyone convince me I was wrong for wanting basic respect and fairness. Because I honored what she wanted for me, even when everyone else tried to take it away. The documents I handed my father that night, the ones proving he'd stolen from me, they were important. But they weren't the most important thing. The most important thing was the moment I decided I was worth fighting for. That my dreams mattered. That my pain was valid. That I deserved more than I'd been getting. Every morning I wake up in my apartment that nobody can take from me. I make coffee in my kitchen. I stand at my window and watch the sunrise over Puget Sound. I water my plants. I look at my mother's painting, and I feel grateful. Not for the struggle exactly, but for what it taught me. About strength, about boundaries, about the difference between family you're born into and family you choose. About how sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who hurt you. I'm 33 now, still building my life, still learning, still growing, but I'm doing it on my own terms, in my own space, with people who value me for who I am, not what I can give them. And if anyone asks if I regret standing up to my father, fighting for what was mine, burning those family bridges, I have a clear answer. No, not for a second, because that fight wasn't about money or property or even family. It was about me finally realizing something I should have known all along. I was worth fighting for. My happiness mattered. My boundaries deserved respect, and nobody, not even my father, had the right to tell me otherwise. That truth, the one proved by those documents and cemented by my refusal to back down, is something nobody can ever take away from me. It's mine, just like this apartment, just like this life, just like the future I'm building. One choice, one boundary, one sunrise at a time. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own well-being? Have you ever stood up for yourself when everyone told you to back down? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that you're worthy of respect, of fairness, of a life that honors your dreams. And I hope that wherever you are in your journey, you find the courage to fight for what's yours. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.